getting to me. It's not the ending. You can give anything, so you can go, go, go. Go, 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 yeah. So I can focus, I just need to focus on myself. Oh, you better go, go, go. Go, 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 yeah. So I can focus, I just need to focus on myself. Yeah, so you can go, go, go. Go, 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 go. So I can focus, I just need to focus on myself. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You better go, go, go. Go, 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 go. So I can focus, I just need to focus on myself. Baby, baby. Hear it on the phone. If you got something to say to me, then say it to my face. What it's all about, why you're bailing out. Think you owe me an apology. Just say it to my face. You're sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. Say it to my face. You're so. And I quit my job for you, even quit some friends for you, 'cause you couldn't stand it, me all independent, so you had to have me for yourself. That was when I trusted you, when I could add up 2 and 2, when you promised we'd be together, you, me, forever. Now there's nothing left to lose. And though I understand it's hard sometimes to make up your mind in these trying times, yeah, I just can't accept you leaving me when I'm overseas with the heart so heavy. Think that I deserve the truth for once, not a guilty tone, 'cause you're not alone, yeah. You said you wanna come home, but I know you don't. So this time I won't hear it
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. It is Tuesday, February 8th, 2022. Thanks so much for joining us. I am, as always, joined this morning by Dr. Carl Mack. We have some news and politics and issues to go over. We will be discussing at great lengths today the case of Amir Locke, who was killed by Minneapolis police, no-knock warrant on last week. We'll be speaking with Georgia Ford on the clock around 8:30 Eastern Standard Time about that topic. We're going to be joined by Rebecca Azor and DJ Exclusive for Like It or Not. We're covering Arie, as she is the next voice to stand against Spotify, to remove her music from Spotify because of the entire fiasco with Joe Rogan. We'll be talking about that around the 9 o'clock hour with Like It or Not. Dr. Mack, good morning to you. Happy Tuesday. How are you this morning?
I'm cool in the game, my brother. Good morning to you, Ben.
Good morning. It's always a pleasure to see you. And I know you are going to have to get out of here early today because of your commitments. And it's always a pleasure to have you. I want to begin, as always, with Black history. If your device is ready, I want to kick off this week like we kicked off last week and like we're going to kick off every morning, which is to recognize the contributions of dynamic Black people to this country and, quite frankly, around the world. But hey, Google, what happened today in Black history?
Well, she was a little slow for you, Ben, so let me try this. Hey, Google, what happened on this day in Black history?
On February 8, 1925, Pan-African leader Marcus Garvey was sent to federal prison in Atlanta following a highly controversial trial for mail fraud. Born on August 17, 1887 in Jamaica, Garvey had been subject to an FBI vendetta due to his work uplifting Black people through his organization, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. In 1916, he formulated the Back to Africa program, which called for the resettlement of Black people to the African nation of Liberia. After years of harassment and sometimes dubious investigations, the FBI eventually found charges that stuck. Adapted from Black Heritage Day 4 calendar by author, lecturer, and civil rights activist Dr. Carl Mack.
It's not without great effort they found charges that stuck. I am always fascinated with Marcus Garvey. Think back, Black, buy Black, and the rest will take care of itself. Brother Mack, Dr. Mack, these calendar dates that you have in the Black Heritage Days, Black Heritage Days with an S.com, they give us so much insight into portions of our history that are not illuminated on a regular basis.
You know, Ben, the only thing I'll say is this is an example of when folks take license with our history. It's not, and it's not that the federal government found charges that stuck. It's that they found charges that white folks were willing to accept, because Garvey was an absolutely incredible Be Black, for Black, about Black movement. And they were very, very much threatened by him. And I will tell you that I actually dated a girl, and I got a chance to meet her family. And this girl that I dated, she actually was born in Africa. And she was born in Africa because her family was part of that Back to Africa movement. They were Garveyites, best way to put it, and got a chance to sit down and speak with her 90-year-old aunt, who was very cognizant. And just to hear of what it was like for them to grow up in Africa. It was just, it was such a different experience that they had, not growing up around the oppression of racism and that type of nonsense. So hats off to Marcus Garvey. So
absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the context that you put it in. It's the charges that white America would have approved. Dr. Mack, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please, let's roll.
I was thinking about the clip that you did this weekend, the Brian Flores clip. And I think we have that, and I want to play it in a moment. I want to go there first because that story is a major story. Yes, but it's a major story that hits on every single area that's important to our lives. It hits on race. It hits on labor. It hits on ownership of your own talent. And before we go to that clip, there was also a clip from Stephen A. Smith this weekend or over the past weekend. I don't know if you had a chance to see that. I want us to play a little bit of that. But I want to come full circle because this story is not going anywhere, and nor do I think it should.
Good. Yeah, let's see the clip. No, I haven't seen the Stephen A. clip. So yeah.
If we have that Stephen A. Smith clip ready, let's take a look at that and get the conversation started.
This morning, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell responding to that bombshell lawsuit filed by former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores. Goodell releasing a memo to all team owners, in it acknowledging efforts to promote diversity among head coaches in particular have been unacceptable, pledging to reevaluate all policies, guidelines, and initiatives relating to diversity.
There's just not enough people of color in the executive and higher coaching level positions.
Flores' lawsuit claims, among other things, that the NFL remains rife with racism, particularly when it comes to hiring and retention of black head coaches, coordinators, and general managers. Right now, out of 32 teams, there is only one black head coach, Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers. There were two others, Flores with Miami and David Culley with Houston, both fired after the 2021 season.
The other 30 owners are white. So what we really need to bring up is the need for black ownership. There's been plenty of black folks out there with some money that don't want to be parts of groups so they can have an ownership stake, a significant ownership stake in the National Football League. That's what we need to be addressing, because the NFL owners themselves have proven they cannot be trusted. They cannot be trusted, and they're not going to change because they don't have to, because people are going to watch football and they're going to still pour money into the NFL's coffers, and those owners are going to get paid, and that's all they care about. They cannot be trusted. Real change is going to come about when we diversify ownership.
Real change is going to come about when we diversify ownership. Dr. Mack.
No, I disagree with Stephen A. Real ownership can come about immediately because 70% of your labor force is black. That bothers me. That bothers me when folks cannot see the power that we have. 70% of your labor force is black. Some of arguably you got the best talent in the world that comes from our community. We just focused on Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was all about black unity. Let Marcus Garvey be one of the players on that team right now. Change will come about right now with 32 white sheet-wearing owners. He wouldn't care. You got 70% of your market. You got 70% of the marquee that looks like Marcus Garvey. He wouldn't care if the ownership was white. I wouldn't care if the ownership was white. Kurt Flood didn't care that the ownership was white. You're just talking about folks who do not understand the power of UNITY. Trust and believe. If they had unified around Colin Kaepernick, that brother would have been protected. When we saw Ali, Bill Russell, Jim Brown unite around Ali at the Ali Summit, Ali was protected. If nothing else, Ali knew that some brothers had his back. There are plenty of examples in our history when we have to unite. Just like now, Spotify wants to look at it and think it's just one guy that's coming out, but trust and believe that's a story that's not going away. The reason why you could see that this story was not going away, 100 years that this league has been in existence. Fritz Pollard, the first black to coach in the NFL, what became the NFL, because it was called the American Professional Football Association, and it morphed into the NFL. But he was the first black to coach in it in 1920. And in that year, he led the Akron Indians to the world title. Today, they have an organization called the Fritz Pollard Alliance. And again, what I want folks to understand is that this Rooney Rule that everybody keeps referencing, don't think that the Rooney Rule came out of the benevolence of Rooney, the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It didn't come out of his benevolence. It came out of the fact that the Fritz Pollard Alliance was threatening the lawsuit.
That's right. Brother Mac, you said UNITY, unity, and 70% of your labor force looking like us, being black. I agree with the idea of ownership, but I agree with you more. We don't have to wait for that.
Because listen, first of all, to get inside that boys club, even if you had a black man that came that had the equal wealth as them, there's a process, a very rigorous process in which they use to even allow another owner in. So if you sit there and wait for that, Oppression will continue. Yes, do I want black ownership? Absolutely. But I'm talking about what you can do in the immediacy.
Right. That's right.
Right here and right now. As Dr. King said, we want all of our rights. We want them here and we want them now. With the 70% black labor force, you can absolutely do it. Now, one of the things people are going to start talking about, players would talk about is, well, but we're different than the NBA because the NBA those players have guaranteed contracts so they can do what they want to do. Trust and believe, family. You make up 70%. If you stick together, they will break, they will bend, they will acquiesce. Brian Flores will be protected. For you to start bringing up the fact that you don't have a guaranteed contract when you make up 70% of the workforce, it's like trying to piss in the wind and tell us all it's raining. We're not trying to hear that.
Hey, man, I love it. That's absolutely. Go ahead, Dwayne. Was that you?
Yeah, Dr. Matt. I totally agree with you, and that's all it would take is for 50% of that 70% to stand up and say we're not going to do it.
30%.
But this past weekend was the Pro Bowl. And that was a golden opportunity. There was a lot of players talking about it, but had them players said, "No, we're not playing the Pro Bowl," that would have been a huge statement. Huge. So my question is, how likely is it? Do you think that you see this work stoppage happen?
Okay. Let me put it to you philosophically, Dwayne. The great historian Lerone Bennett, who wrote the book Before the Mayflower, said this: only a fool ignores his history. Because these players don't understand their history, they don't have a social consciousness in which they can truly understand the power that resides in them. As long as they stay ignorant about our experience in this country, they don't have the Kurt Floods to lean on. They don't have all of the heroes and sheroes within our history who battled against insurmountable odds and overcame those odds. They don't have the courage that is embodied inside of our history. So as long as they stay ignorant about it, because trust and believe, Dwayne, and I know you believe it, I know Ben believes it, I know every viewer that's within the sound of my voice believes this. Were I a player at that Pro Bowl, trust and believe, there would have been at least one player that wouldn't have been playing that Pro Bowl, and arguably a lot more. That's right.
That's right, Brother Mac. I without a doubt, there's only a handful of people who are in your age category who could probably go out there and play for real. So I believe it that you would have been out there and also stood up against it. I love this story because it absolutely impacts every area of our life. It reminds me of the organizing that's happening with Amazon. You have organizing people, workers uniting at Starbucks. They're unionizing. It's a similar action. It's a labor action showing the strength of labor, no matter who is the quote unquote owner. When you have that many people that represent a particular thought, if they stood up, you're absolutely right. Actually, let's play your clip. I want to play your clip because you already said all this.
Right. But Ben, one of the things I do want to remind folks of is, and we all had a very robust conversation on this show, and I very much enjoyed all the different perspectives. But I want us to remember this. When this story first broke, and talking about unity, Marcus Garvey, when this story first broke, it was just Brian Flores. What have we seen since then? We've seen Marvin Lewis, Hugh Jackson, Tony Dungy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We're hearing players begin to, now, we've been hearing players talk about it, trust and believe. And we was thinking maybe this story goes away. Every major news outlet around the country is talking about this particular issue. So trust and believe. There are going to be others that are going to get on this thing, and that unity wheel is going to flow. Why did I think this one was different? 100 years. See, 100 years that this league has been there. And now, think about this. 32 white owners. They have a commissioner. That commissioner works for those owners. But listen carefully to what Roger Goodell said. Roger said, listen, Roger, you better be careful. Because Roger said, hey, we have not been doing a good job. So trust and believe.
Yeah.
This one ain't over, fam.
It's not. It's far from over. Let's run the clip. This is Dr. Mack last week making it plain about what the players need to do.
Good morning, fam. Normally I'm hanging with my brother Benjamin Dixon on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. I want to talk to you this morning, the NFL players, in particular about Brian Flores. See, like many in the Black community, we want to be sure that you don't f this one up the way you did Colin Kaepernick, because as a collective, you left that brother hanging. And don't tell me about the millions of dollars at stake here, because given that it's Black History Month, allow me to give you this history lesson, Black history lesson. See, in all of professional sports, there used to be something called the reserve clause, which gave the owners of all of these franchises the rights to your talent for as long as you played that particular sport. Now, on December 24th, 1969, Brother Flood, Kurt Flood, wrote then Commissioner Bowie Kuhn the following letter. He said, "After 12 years in the major leagues, I do not feel that I am a piece of property to be bought and sold irrespective of my wishes. I believe I have the right to consider offers from other clubs before making any decision." So he filed a lawsuit against Major League Baseball and took it all the way to the Supreme Court. Yes, he lost 5-3, but in December of 1975, the Players Union, being inspired from the courage of this Black man, ultimately defeated the reserve clause. Yes, we've seen you out there playing, and on the back of your helmets, you got Breonna Taylor, you got Trayvon Martin, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd. You got those names on the back of your helmet as if you could have done something. You would have done anything to save their lives. Well, in all due respect, they are dead now. But I'm going to tell you who is alive. Brian Flores is alive, and he needs you all. And on the back of your helmets, we all see when you said, "It takes all of us." So what am I suggesting? Why don't you take a playbook from that of the NBA players and don't play the game until they get this situation right? Otherwise, you're going to f this one up too.
Make it any plainer than that.
Yeah, no doubt, fam. No doubt.
I don't think we can make it any plainer than that. I want to go to one other story of solidarity that we need to have. And this one is involving R&B singer. She's more than R&B, like neo soul extravaganza that is India Arie. Now, we're going to talk about this at great length during Like It or Not. But she came out and decided to remove her music from Spotify. This is the ongoing dispute that Spotify is having with their customers over Joe Rogan. I want us to play the clip. Viewer discretion. She is going to include the clip from Joe Rogan where he is dropping the N-word profusely. I do believe we edited all of them out, but I just want to give you a fair warning. This is coming. Here's India Arie as to why she's pulling her music from Spotify.
I want to leave a short message here about why I decided to ask my music be pulled off of Spotify. So check this out.
No white people. It says, "Okay, take me to this one." And the guy goes, "Okay." I goes, "Is that in a good neighborhood?" He's like, "Oh, yeah. Guy barely speaks English. He takes us there. We get out and we're giggling. "Oh, we're going to see Planet of the Apes." We walk into Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door and there was no white people. It says, "Okay, take."
I empathize with the people who are leaving for the COVID disinformation reasons, and I think that they should. I also think that Joe Rogan has the right to say what he wants to say. I also think that I have the right to say what I want to say. So as an artist who builds, Spotify is built on the back of the music streaming. So they take this money that's built from streaming and they pay this guy $100 million, but they pay us 0.003% of a penny. Just take me off. I don't want to generate money that pays this. Just take me off. That's where I'm at. And I know that I'm actually, to be honest with you, surprised that my statements were picked up, because I thought people weren't really going to listen to me because that's what I'm used to from the industry. But I'm glad that I am being heard, and for that reason, I want to clarify my statements. Again, this is why. Watch this.
Like, the thing. Yeah, saying the word well, you've already said is just like saying she's calling you a it's like this boy that he's a and starts calling them word. There should be a word like especially like the word that's our about he says guy a and then starts saying allowed to use the word out the word see word say and he couldn't say else.
So we know how social media can be.
Oh, she's back.
Can be doctored. People are taken out of context. It's happened to me. many times. However, I want to be clear, in no uncertain terms, where I stand on this is that he shouldn't even be uttering the word. Don't even say it under any context. Don't say it.
That's it. No, in any context. Go ahead, Dr. Mack.
Now, Ben, I want to push this as close as I can, right? There you go. See, inside the calendar, I have a page on that word. Can you see that clearly, Ben?
Fairly clearly, but go read it for us, or we can get Google to read it for us.
No. I don't want to read it, but you see what the title is.
Oh, yeah. I can see it now. Yeah. No, Google ain't going to read that one, is
No. Google, they certainly won't read it. So this is a page in the calendar in which I'm speaking in the same spirit as India Arie as to why I won't do it. And this is what I've been trying to say to you about why I love what Kurt Flood did, what Ali did, what Colin Kaepernick did, and now what Brian Flores is doing. Yes, he may be one. Even if no other artists, Black artists, pull their music from Spotify, if nobody else do it, through the annals of history, people are going to look back and they're going to view India Arie in a whole different light. Even right now, do I love her music? Absolutely. But now I love her. I'm in love with that sister's social consciousness. She said, look at the business of it. You building you building this platform on the backs of Black talent music. Some of my music, not all of my music, but you're certainly building it on the backs of Black music. And now you want to give us 0.000 whatever percent and then turn around and pay this clown $150 million or whatever you want to pay him. And then you're going to use my music to help me support a fool that's insulting me? And you think he's bigger than us?
Yeah.
Okay, I tell you what, you ride and die with that fool. But you won't be doing it with my money. You won't be doing it with my music. That level of social trust and believe, family. If India Arie played in the NFL, we'd be getting this situation with Brian Flores taken care of.
Well, wait, hold on. That's where I gotta stop you for a minute, Dr. Mack, because these two instances are almost exactly the same. But here's the thing. In the Spotify thing, the reason that Joe Rogan really is catching all this flack is not from this. It's because of the vaccine conspiracy stuff and Neil Young. And Neil Young came out with all his powerful white friends, and they're affecting the money of Spotify. So while I 100% stand behind India Arie and what she's doing, it's just like you said, years from now, people are going to look back and say India Arie, she was a soldier, she did what she had to do. But what really did it? What is it going to accomplish? Because nobody is really on Joe Rogan's back about in this and in that, and he been doing that for years. He still got $300 million from Spotify.
But if I could, Brother Mac, let me jump in there real quick and say two things real quick. Dwayne, number one, you're gonna have to get you a camera. So because you got some takes that we need to hear, and I think the people would love to see your face. But number two, more importantly, I really do see this as already making a change. Will it change Spotify? No, because Spotify has doubled down. In fact, they've insulted us even more, right? They've said the CEO of Spotify has come out and said that he wants to contribute $100 million to marginalized groups. Watch this. They gave Joe Rogan $150 million. Now he wants to give the totality of marginalized artists from marginalized groups $100 million. Now, it's great. Everybody wants that money, but they are going to keep and double down on Joe Rogan. So we're not changing that side of the equation. But I do think India Arie standing up in the way that she did. I mean, hell, if that doesn't encourage people to, at a minimum, delete Spotify, I don't know what to do.
And trust and believe this. I know what originally started it. I'm not tripping with that. But what I am saying is that because she stood up for her reason, this is where our focus is. And trust and believe. I did exactly what you said, Ben. I canceled my Spotify. I don't want to hear no music from them. I don't want to do anything with them. Yeah. So all I'm saying is, I don't care what started this snowball against Joe Rogan. She might have used that to say, okay, now that their attention is on there, she might have been strategic enough and savvy enough to get it. However you did it, baby girl, all I got to tell you Is this brother sitting over here, Queen? I'm honored by you, baby girl. I am so honored
That's
by
right.
you.
That's
I don't
right.
care what took it. It took 100. Dwayne, what you have to be careful is how many other black coaches were screwed over by these white owners, but they didn't have the courage to do it. How many presidents could have signed the Emancipation Proclamation, but they didn't do it? You can keep down that line forever and ever. It is the beauty within the individual that finally says, in the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Come on, man. Come on, somebody. Go ahead, Dwayne.
I got it, but even after the Emancipation Proclamation, hold on. But after the man, didn't my man still have slaves after that? The man who signed the Emancipation Proclamation, he still had slaves after that, did he not?
Dwayne, hold on, Dwayne. Abraham Lincoln never owned slaves.
Yeah, no,
Get inside the history. If you go,
okay. I would like you to correct me. No, that's why I'm saying it, because if I'm wrong, I would love to be corrected. But so my only point with that is, it's great to do these things, but these one-off things are not going to do it. She needs other people to come stand with her, other black people to come take their music off of Spotify. There's still, so in my opinion, there are still going to be black entertainers, musicians, actors, all of that. When it's time for them to promote something, they're going to still go sit right there with Joe Rogan. So until that happens, she's a martyr.
I'm convinced. You know what? I'm going to tell you something. In the words of Dr. King and so many others, if a man or a woman hasn't discovered something that they're willing to die for, they ain't fit to live. I will never sit around and wait for unanimity before I move. Trust and believe. I believe in the concept. I believe, Dwayne, in the concept of a catalyst. That is the fundamental difference between you and I. You want a whole group of folks to move in when you move. No, not me. Player, trust and believe. If you touch one half, my brother, and there's a million of you, it's the 300 against the million. Fine, I'm willing to roll like that. I do not need unanimity. I believe in the power of the catalyst. I believe in the power of one.
Yeah, the catalyst has to happen, but just like you said earlier, it has to be unity as well. There has to be that unified. There has to be, in order for change to happen.
What I'm saying to you is that there have been black folks who moved knowing that the masses wouldn't move, ain't gonna move, but they knew that a movement had to take place. And they knew that in their movement, that change is going to come. They might not see the change, but that change is going to come. And throughout our history, that is what we've seen. I think that your mindset, now I'm not talking you personally, I think that your mindset is detrimental to progress because you are waiting for unanimity. You get sometimes somebody's got to step up there and take that lead. And what India Arie has done, you best believe that there are other black artists that they may be thinking about it now. The same way in the movie industry, when Viola Davis accepted that award, and when she accepted that award, she chided Hollywood and told them, you always think that you got to write something special for me. No, write for me the same way you write for Becky and all the rest of them. So there are those folks in our community who are willing to step out there as a one-off. And it doesn't mean that it's trivial. It ain't going to make a difference. Trust and believe. Why are we still talking about the Alis of the world? Why are we still, and trust and believe, all the players that played with Kaepernick, who might have been better than Kaepernick, will never remember their names, but we'll always remember his name.
Well, there's a little piece of that is absolutely true, especially that Kaepernick piece, Dr. Mack. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Georgia Ford. We got to tackle the issue of Amir Locke. No matter what's going on around the world, it seems that the police in this country never get enough of killing black people. Georgia Ford is going to join us on the clock to discuss that momentarily. We'll be back with more of the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show right after this.
Truth is hard,
rubber bands. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. Swerving, making plays, quick Ferrari red. Never out my zone, touchdown in my hands. Only fam around me, I can't have no friends. Had to cut you off, you left me out for dead. Ever since I was a teen, had prices on my head. Had to cut you off, you left me out for dead. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. Just picked up some bands, come again. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. I'm the running man, rapping rubber bands. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. Just picked up some bands, come again. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. I'm the running man.
Don't feel right. I still wanna party with her. Oh yeah. Even when it don't feel right. You know I'ma party with her. We've been chilling off the Wednesday, slept until it's Thursday. She don't wanna leave me, not just yet. Told me all about last Friday when she went all crazy. Didn't go to bed till Saturday. I don't wanna go without, so I asked her to stay. Though she broke my heart in a million ways, but I'm putting that aside now. I'ma feel alright now, happy just as long as she's with me. I've been trying my luck every day of the week, yeah. When my baby wakes up, always down every week, yeah. No, I love her too much, but I just can't get enough. She's slipping through the cracks.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. Coming up at 9 o'clock, we'll be speaking with Jordan Chariton of Status Quo about the organizing that's happening at Amazon, more specifically, the attacks from Amazon on labor organizing. And then later on in this episode, we'll be speaking with Candice Benbow about her book, Red Lip Theology. But first, we're on the clock with Georgia Ford. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it looks like we may be having just a little connection issue with Sister Ford. We'll give her a minute to get back. And here she is, Sister Ford. Your connection is back with us.
This morning, we are continuing to follow the developments of Amir, Locke, individuals in the community here demanding justice, demanding the officer who fatally shot him be terminated. Community members are also demanding the resignation of interim chief of police Amelia Huffman along with Mayor Fry. This on the backdrop of the fact that the same community demanded similar changes following the murder of George Floyd. And so we're at this point where we have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves a serious question: what really has changed? I know this is a question that we've asked ourselves along the way, but now city officials are having to ask themselves that question more so than ever. How did the community that was the epicenter for police accountability on an international level, how did this same community end up not just at the center of this tragedy, but you got to think, Dante Wright has happened since George Floyd in this community. Jason Smith has happened in this community since George Floyd. And Delali. Those are three cases we can point to. And so we're here asking this question: what truly has changed, Ben?
Georgia, I can't help but feel some kind of way that all of these events are happening in the same city, in the same proximity, right? And I also feel glad that you're on the scene in that area to capture some of these images and to capture the heart of this. The thing about this that I've noticed with the death and the murder of Amir Locke is the fact that the bar for people to care in this country is so high. And the graphic nature of the video has to be so graphic because it feels as though, America is fatigued with having to discuss how many times Black people are killed by police officers. And I just want to remind you all that we're fatigued with being killed by police officers.
Absolutely. Well, thousands of people hit the streets over the weekend, as you can see here in this video. This was the largest turnout, I think, that we've seen here in Minnesota for a protest since Dante Wright. And the governor at this point has activated the National Guard. The interesting thing, however, in the statement he released to the public, it pointed to the federal trial that's happening as the reason why he was authorizing the Minnesota National Guard. He didn't mention anything about Amir Locke, right? And so simultaneously, while the community...
Yeah.
Let's go to the clip.
Yeah, we're still having a little connectivity issue, but I know we have video footage that was captured by Sister Fort and her team there on the ground. This first clip, I believe, is from mothers who are demanding justice for Amir Locke. Let's take a listen in.
I don't even know how to control anymore. I am a mother. I am an auntie. I am a sister. I am a grandmother. I am a friend. I am a Black woman. Yes. My sons are 20 and 27. And when I see the face of Amir, I see my son. Yes. So when we say enough is enough, we are tired of the system failing us. The system continues to tell us to follow their laws. Well, he did. He was licensed to carry, and that cost him his life.
That's right. That's like philanthropy.
And I know his father. They want justice. They're not going to get their son back.
That's right.
But we can stand, and the more that we want is justice. We want truth, and we want accountability.
That's right.
That's what we want.
That's right.
But what more do you want? That's what we're going to bring. We're going to stand together in a bond that is unbreakable.
Yes. Right.
What more do you want?
If Nikema Levy-Armstrong didn't interrupt that press conference, we would have heard more covers-ups. We would have continued to see Amir Locke be demonized and vilified and called suspects. Somebody said the other day, suspects is just like saying the N-word. We know what you are doing, and enough is enough.
That's right.
3 months since the last election. 3 months. So you can just imagine, we work hard, we go hard in the paint, right, ladies? We're in the streets, we're talking to people, we're trying to plant some seeds of hope and encouragement. We try to give folks the information they need to make an informed decision. And you all said you were going to bring some change. And then you said that you had banned the no-knock warrants. We do not trust you.
That's right.
Department that we are supposed to trust.
That's right.
And here we are at this moment with a son that could have been dreaming only to wake up and never to dream again. Forever he will be in that dream. Buddy was my friend. Buddy is my friend. I knew Amir. Amir was 2 years younger than my son. Buddy is a tower here in this Twin Cities with our young people because I just don't have two sons. Amir was my son too.
Come on.
Amir was my son too. Amir was her son. Amir was her son. Amir was every one of these mothers that stand before you. Amir was our son.
That's right.
We will not allow this to happen. People that are in position, you need to step down and move around for others to be in place to make this city move forward.
Yes.
Of being sick and tired. When it gets to the point to where we say we all we got, we are all we got. And if all we have is to make sure that you as political leaders are out of the way, we are going to get bigger and better and bolder. You ain't seen nothing yet.
I haven't seen nothing yet. You know, one of the things I think about as I look at that clip is how strong Black mothers have to be all the time, and how unfortunately serendipitous it is to live in Minneapolis, where there's only like 1 degree separation between the people who knew George Floyd and the people who knew Daunte Wright and the people who now knew Amir Locke. And to see those Black women have to stand there, Georgia, time after time after time after time after time, murder after murder. And of course, the Black fathers are out there. She mentioned Buddy, who I believe is Amir's father. You captured a clip of him speaking, and it is just so heart-wrenching to see us have to be strong like this in the face of one of our darkest moments.
Absolutely, Ben. It's devastating. You know, and I know Buddy, the woman who also said that she knows Buddy. The interesting thing is, Buddy was the first person I ever interviewed in my whole career. You know, he's an artist. And when I interviewed him at that woman's restaurant. And, you know, to be at this point in community over 10 years later, where we're all back together, but for this reason, it's heartbreaking. The women in our community who gathered yesterday demanding justice for Amir Locke said, we gotta stop meeting like this. Every time this community is coming together, it's to grieve the loss of another Black man at the hands of law enforcement. And so, you know, regardless of where you're at on this issue, I think we can all agree, no one really wants to be at this point again. That's
right.
You know, right. And so what changes can be implemented, and when are we going to set the politics aside? You know, because there were community leaders who delivered more than 10,000 signatures. I want to say it was close to 20. Boxes and boxes and boxes full of signatures from people in this community across the state of Minnesota who wanted to see policy change as it relates to policing. I watched community deliver those boxes to the governor's office last year. And what happened to those bills? Because one of them would have addressed no-knock warrants. One of them would have saved Amir Locke's life. What happened to that bill? Why weren't those people heard? They were out in the community collecting votes, collecting signatures. That was something that the community said that they wanted. Why didn't that happen? It didn't happen because of politics. It didn't happen because Republicans, they want to continue to back the blue line. It didn't happen because Democrats wanted to be moderate or passive or wanted to appease their Republican colleagues. And so there was compromises that were made to the legislation that was presented last year that allowed Amir Locke to be killed. And so at what point do they set the politics aside and really start to get at the core of these issues so that we're not back here in another 6 months being reactionary and allowing the cost of change to continue being Black blood?
My God, the cost of change to continue being Black blood. And see, this is the thing that troubles me so much, Georgia, is the fact that without an escalation in the manner in which they brutally lynch us publicly. And what I mean by that, if the video ain't graphic, then it's like the system doesn't respond to it. It's almost like the system is waiting for the next spectacular killing of a Black person to move one more inch But as you already said, change cannot continue to cost us Black blood. It just cannot. And then in the face of this, we have politicians who are more interested in symbolism than actual change, ending qualified immunity, changing it so police officers are responsible for their own insurance or their own settlements instead of the city paying tax dollars. See, we're not getting any structural change. What we're getting is symbolism, and what's happening every single day along the way, Black life is being executed in the streets.
And let me just be clear. The media is a part of the system too. Ben, when you examine what happens after these police killings, the media plays a central role in shaping the public's opinion on whether or not police officers' use of fatal force is justified. And so, for example, when you reflect back on what happened to Winston Smith, you know, the public opinion was shaped. The public felt that it was justified almost immediately because the media published a narrative saying that this individual was a murder suspect. Well, that was false. Well, guess what? The same thing happened for Amir Locke. The Minneapolis Police Department shared a press release calling him a suspect. And he wasn't. And so these narratives that follow these police killings largely shape public opinion on whether or not these killings are justified. And they have the ability to temper the public's response. If there's not footage, you're just not going to have the same response. If there's not footage, if people cannot see with their own two eyes what has happened, you're just not going to get a response. But what my question is for media, especially the media here in Minneapolis, I have a question that I need answered by the media in Minneapolis. At what point do you consider a source to not be credible anymore? Because at this point, the Minneapolis Police Department has lied to you. The Minneapolis Police Department has withheld information in order to give you a partial narrative that paints a picture that is favorable for them. They have misled you by omitting information intentionally. At what point do you say, I can no longer trust this source? At what point do you say any information that this source gives to me, I need to fact check by a second source? I need proof. I need evidence. I need visuals, because this has not only happened one time, two times, but now here we are the third time that we have a public record of the Minneapolis Police Department either blatantly lying to the media or only sharing half of the information so that the media can paint a picture that is favorable for the Minneapolis Police Department. Pointing back to what happened to George Floyd, the Minneapolis Police Department issued a press release saying that George Floyd died of medical complications during an encounter with police. You saw the footage. You know that's not what happened. You watched the trial. You saw what the judge determined. That's not what happened. So we know that they lied on the record, and the Minneapolis Police Department, let's just say it was one bad apple, Ben. They allowed the public information officer to keep his position. Why wasn't he terminated for putting out a lie like that to the public? So now you have one instance. That's one example. Now here, look at Amir Locke. They called him a suspect and he wasn't. They published photographs of his gun without telling the media that he had a license to carry it. At what point does the media say, we cannot trust you? You give us bad information. We're not going to source you anymore. You give us only half the story. We need to fact check and verify just like we would if we were talking to somebody off the streets. At what point does the media draw the line and say the Minneapolis Police Department is no longer a credible source?
Georgia, I would expand your question, your query to all police departments and all media outlets, because one of the most traumatizing things that I think I've ever encountered in this line of work was our brother out of Baltimore, I believe Freddie Gray. So many names. It's hard to get them all. But Freddie Gray, he was killed by the police in Maryland. And during the trial, the media decided to bring up the deceased, his mother's previous drug addiction. The person who was dead, not on trial, Georgia, they dug into that man's mother's drug addiction and reported that during the trial. So my question is like, if the media is there to represent the truth and justice or any aspect of journalistic integrity, let's forget about justice. Let's forget about truth, because, I think we're living in a post-truth America. But it really does seem like a lot of these media outlets are 100% complicit with maintaining the narrative that keeps this system killing Black people every single time we look up.
You can even reflect historically on the media's role in covering lynchings. You can look historically on the media's role in inciting lynchings. Right. And so how many of those same practices are still embedded in the fabric of the system of media? How many of the standards, how many of the practices, when you talk about objectivity, when you talk about being balanced and being unbiased, why is it that we'll hear about Freddie Gray's deceased mother's addiction, but we won't hear about the officer's father's abuse towards his mother? That's still actually happening currently. Why is it that we can criminalize and dehumanize Black bodies without even thinking about it twice? But then when it comes to white people who are featured in these same stories, oftentimes we're pointing to their accolades and their achievements and, how successful they were with their education career. All of these things, they continue to uphold white supremacy, and they continue to temper the public's opinion on who to love and who to hate. And that, honestly, Ben, when you look at how polarized our nation is, how divided our nation is, the media has played a central role in why and how we are where we are today. But, I think that is what makes what we're doing so unique, because we're able to examine the media industry in this capacity, in which I know for a fact, when I was working for mainstream media, I couldn't talk about the practices and the standards within the industry in a way that was critical and challenged people to bring change. But this is a very valid question for journalists, not only in Minneapolis, but yes, if you're covering police killings in other markets and you're starting to see a pattern of the police department sharing misinformation or only sharing half of the information to give you a partial narrative that's in their favor, you need to truly ask yourself, why do you still consider them a credible source? We can no longer, as journalists, walk into these stories with the assumption that just because you're a politician, just because this is a government agency, just because this is a police department, that automatically means that you're credible. You need to have the same level of scrutiny and skepticism that you would have of a community leader off of the street who's sharing statistics. If a community leader shares even just one statistic, do you know that a journalist will go back to the newsroom and they will look it up until they can find the source of that statistic? And then if they can't find the source of that statistic, they can't use it. If it's not credible, if it's not verified, if it's not fact checked, they're not going to include that in their report. So why aren't they using the same skepticism of police departments who have a public record of lying?
Sister Porter, you're reminding me of Malcolm. If you're not careful, the media, the newspapers will have you hating those that are oppressed and loving the oppressor. We're speaking with, obviously, independent journalist Georgia Fort on the clock. Can you tell us what's next in the city? Because you're there, you're on the ground. We do have that one last clip that I want to play before we're out of time here. But what are we expecting to see there in the city? Because despite the freezing temperatures, the people are coming out.
That's right. We've seen people in a very creative way begin to do car caravans so that they can protest, so that they can disrupt and still be warm, because it is very, very cold here. On Saturday, that didn't stop thousands of people from coming out. And so we know today there is a school walkout that is planned. Thousands of students, we're hearing, are going to be leaving school halfway through the school day to demand justice for Amir Locke. We also know that there's a few protests that are happening throughout the week as well. Earlier over the weekend, community leaders went to the home of interim police chief Amelia Huffman, demanding that she resign or be terminated for the way she shared information. It was blatantly inaccurate. And then she walked out of a press conference without answering people's questions. And so I'm anticipating, Ben, that there's going to be a continuous pressure applied to Mayor Fry, the interim police chief, and other officials who are in a position to make a decision on whether or not Mark Hanneman can keep his job. That has been a very clear demand from the very beginning, that he be terminated from his position, that the interim police chief be terminated, and Mayor Fry resign. So I think that people are going to keep showing up until some of these demands are met. Outside of that, while folks are continuing to protest and demand justice for Amir Locke, we still have court proceedings that are happening at the federal courthouse here to determine whether or not the other 3 officers who are charged federally in the killing of George Floyd, whether or not they're found guilty. So I also think that could play a role in the size of response that we see here in Minneapolis.
Georgia, thank you for everything that you're doing out there on the ground. Please be safe out there. I want us to, I know we're out of time, but I want to close this segment by us listening to the father of Amir Locke. This is a clip that you captured and shared on your timeline, and I want the people to really hear what these officers and these police officers around the country, what they're doing to parents and to family members of the deceased. Thank you so much, Georgia.
Absolutely.
How dare you take my son from me and his mother? How dare you? What gives you the audacity to think that you are God?
Ooh, say that.
Who told you that you was the judge and the jury and executioner?
You knew that Amir Locke was not on that warrant, and you didn't put that information out there. So you have a father in pain and a mother in pain because they have to fight and defy the stereotypes. We don't need to humanize any black man or any black woman for you to soften your heart. Your heart should already be softened. Okay?
I think I let my guard down. Certain things ain't the same now. Hard to navigate these problems. I'm by myself, you're not around. I tried to open up, it wasn't good enough.
Good morning, y'all. Y'all know who it
now
is.
I'm stuck in the rain,
Y'all know the sound.
Why you gotta do me like that? Don't say you love me, then go and leave me.
Good morning, y'all.
Ugly, trust and believe me. Saying to myself, looks so deceiving. Trying to fight back, too far from easy. I've seen
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Welcome, everybody. Good morning. This morning, hope you're doing well. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Good morning, everybody. Happy birthday, Nat. Hey, happy birthday, sister. Love you, me. Hope you have a great day this morning, y'all. Good morning, everybody.
Why did I open up? She taking way too much. Put in my all and got nothing back. I'm feeling so ashamed. I fell into your game. do me like that. Don't say you love me, then go and leave me. It can't get ugly, trust and believe me. Say it to myself, looks hard deceiving. Trying to fight back this far.
Good morning, everybody. Sunny Right, good morning, Roller Dragon. On and on it goes. Courtney the SLP, yes, Courtney. New music. That's right, y'all. This is going to be a short break this morning, y'all. We have a guest that's coming on shortly, so we're going to get into the guest real quick and do our interview, and then we'll be back. But we got some new music for y'all, man, all morning. Also, y'all make sure y'all stay tuned here on the Benjamin Dixon Show. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mama and Daddy. Love you, need it. All right, y'all, back to my brother from another mother, y'all, Benjamin Dixon. Good morning, Brother Ben.
Thank you so much, man. We're going to come back to you momentarily. I want to jump right to an interview with my friend Jordan Chariton of Status Quo. He shared a video with me last night that I had to get him on this morning to talk about, and that is around the organizing efforts at Amazon. Jordan, first of all, how are you this morning? Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Pleasure is mine and ours. I want to first play this clip, but contextualizing it, Amazon employees have been trying to organize, particularly in Bessemer, Alabama, is the most recognizable name in terms of this movement. Christian Smalls, the brother who started organizing in New York. There's just a whole lot that's happening around this. And I think it's important for every community, particularly the Black community, to see how these corporations that saturate our communities really treat employees. Let's start with that video that you captured, or that you released.
We just want, so we've been told,
sorry, I just want to be very clear, guys, here.
We want to be, I feel like we can ask questions. We want to be respectful to be able to answer questions.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I am asking everyone who is not part, who is not scheduled to be, please leave the room right now. If you were not scheduled to be in this particular meeting, I said this 3 times. I'm asking you to please leave the room. And if you don't, you need to be insubordinate. And I want to make sure all of you understand that if you refuse to leave the room, once I asked you 3 times already, that you would be willingly insubordinate.
I want to understand how we're insubordinate.
Is there anyone here? Is there anyone inside the room who did not understand what I shared?
No, we understand, but we also know that you understand that if you make us leave the room, that's a charge against Amazon. Is this a non-work area?
All right.
Is this a non-work area?
I think I said it 3 times already.
Can you answer my question, Felipe?
3 times. If you were not scheduled to be in the room for this particular meeting, I asked you to leave the room. Yes, we decided.
Yeah, we're saying. We're saying.
Not leave the room and be insubordinate.
We're saying. Felipe, we're organizing on our non-work time. This is legally protected collective action by the law. You know that. That's the general manager. Yes, Felipe, we're protected under Section 7A. We're protected under Section 7A.
I asked
and this is the same reason why we're in this room, because Amazon does a lot of things just like this. Against workers. You might be continuously breaking laws.
This is what we're going to do. We are going to get this session started, right? We're going to get this session started. I very clearly told everyone who was not scheduled to be here to leave the room, and you decided to stay. So we're going to get this session started. So right.
By the general manager, and saying that we'll be insubordinate if we don't leave.
Thank you.
We'll file more charges. Get ready for them.
Now, Jordan, for people who may not kind of get the grasp of the significance of this clip, could you help the people to understand what those Amazon employees were attempting to do and what the gentleman who was telling them that they were on the borderline of being insubordinate, what he was trying to stop them or allegedly stop them from doing?
Yeah, so this is at JFK 8, which is the Staten Island warehouse that New York, that workers have been trying to form a union basically for almost a year. They started last April. So Amazon started doing daily mandatory union busting sessions in November. They call them training, but I've listened to them, and it's just basically union busting, why you shouldn't vote for the union, why the union is tyranny, they're going to take your money, blah, 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 blah. So Amazon stopped doing them in December and most of January, but all of a sudden this week they started doing them again. It just so happens these organizers with Amazon Labor Union, that's the group of workers that are trying to form a union, that they finally, after almost a year, they were awarded an election for a union from the National Labor Relations Board. So basically what you see in this clip, the general manager in this union busting session is trying to get the union organizers to leave the room so that he'll have direct access to workers to push propaganda about the union. So basically, they're trying to just get rid of the organizers in the union. And as you can see, the union organizers are pushing back, refusing to leave. And as a result, they shut down the meeting. The meeting wasn't held. And I was told 2 other meetings that were supposed to happen were shut down because the union organizers basically weren't having it.
I like to, I think I'd like to believe that everybody understands the importance of unions. I know historically unions are not exactly have been favorable to Black people, but notwithstanding, we have a strong history with labor. A. Philip Randolph, just to name one of the outstanding labor organizers in the Black community. What bothers me about this clip is the fact that it's easily looked over, except for the fact that every single person on the face of this country, I almost wanted to say this planet, every single one of us in this country is impacted by Amazon. We're impacted by them on our highways. We're impacted by them in our neighborhoods. We have more Amazon warehouses in parts of Atlanta than we have hospitals. You have to drive 30 miles to get to a hospital, but you can get to 3 Amazon warehouses within about a 10-mile radius of a particular city in Atlanta where I live. That said, how do we help people to understand why people who do not work in these warehouses, people who made themselves not be a part of unions, why is it so important for us to stand in solidarity with these workers?
Because in order, frankly, to get your yoga mat in 2 hours from Amazon, there are workers literally fainting in the warehouse to get you that yoga mat for 2 hours. I mean, I've been reporting on this particular warehouse and the union busting for almost a year. You got workers that are literally homeless, sleeping in their car. Because they're not paid enough and can't afford a place in New York City. You have workers that were carted off on stretchers during the summer because the heat is so bad in this warehouse. Jeff Bezos has enough money to go into space. I guess central air conditioning is a problem in these warehouses. Wow. You have workers that are literally being basically watched if they go to the bathroom and reprimanded. And by the way, what you're seeing, that union busting, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I've broken at Status Quo. They put signage everywhere in the warehouse, propaganda against the union. They literally put signage that union people are going to come to your home, your parents' home, almost like, the immigration fear kind of language against these workers. You've had union consultants. Amazon pays millions of dollars to bring in union busting consultants, they call them trainers, to pull aside workers to basically talk against the union. And by the way, on the minorities point, the majority of workers at this particular warehouse are Black and brown. And that's right. I can't speak to other places, but in New York, it is mostly Black and brown people and a lot of young people. We're talking 18 to 25. So really what they're trying to do, they are stone cold trying to bust this union, trying to make them lose the vote. And they're doing everything possible, which in this clip is basically, let's get rid of the union organizers so we have direct access to the workers that might be on the fence to push propaganda on them.
One last thing, Jordan, I know you got to get out of here, but I want to juxtapose this with the video of the Amazon truck drivers, who I know are independent contractors. Most people may not be aware, but the truck delivery guys are not officially Amazon employees, even though they drive Amazon trucks and wear Amazon vests. What we've seen, and the reporting has come out, that even your delivery driver is suffering underneath conditions where they have to urinate in bottles, right, to get us our packages in 2 hours or by the next day. And then last but not least, I'm sure you saw the report that Amazon is now concerned. Now they're concerned that they're burning through employees at such a rate that they do not believe that they will have sufficient employees in the future. I think that is a signal enough to help us understand exactly how cruel they're being to their employees and why unionizing is so important.
Yeah, just at this warehouse that video is from, they have 150% turnover rate, meaning they're either quitting or firing at a 150% rate. The average worker there is there for no more than 6 months. And on the driver point, I spoke with 2 workers a couple months ago, literally in a snowstorm, their truck flipped. And the first question that they were asked by their supervisor is, do you still think you can make the next delivery? Not, Jesus, how are you? So this is literally, Ben, this is an economic Hunger Games. And, you know, the mass media, who gets a lot of money from Amazon, they generally report on it sort of, kind of, but not in depth. But if more people knew what is being done to these workers to get you your prime delivery, I do believe more people would, start to pull back.
Absolutely. Jordan Chariton, Status Quo. Could you tell everybody how they can support your work and support these workers?
Yeah, Status Quo on YouTube. That's COUP. Please subscribe. YouTube is not always friendly in terms of, sending our work to people. So that's Status Quo on YouTube. And you could support us at statusquo.com/join. We do a lot of investigative and on the ground reporting.
Absolutely. Jordan Chariton, thanks so much for joining us. I'll let you get out of here. I'm going to turn it over to DJ Exclusive when we come back. Like it or not, it's about to go down.
All right, y'all, make sure that y'all stay tuned. Rebecca is in the building. Good morning again, everybody.
Body on 10, make your girl OD. I get in my way, never out of my lane. Feel like you the one and I'm on one. So what it's gonna be? Baby, squad up, we finna go deep. Is you riding on a team? I got what you need. Baby, won't you keep me company? Give me something to do when I get lonely. I got something for you when we get home. If you let me put it down.
Alicia, good morning to you. Infinite content, what's going on? Good morning, mom and daddy.
On try, baby, I think you should side with me. Stay solid one time if you lie with me. Just promise you never lie to me. Keep the moves on tuck. I know it's all up.
Nicole, good morning to you. Jacob, Miss Nuru, good morning. Laura Estrada, good morning. Brother Lateef, what's going on? Shout out Chucky Diesel. Black Panther, yes, I did chew Hubba Bubba as a little baby Bubba running around. Mary, she good morning.
I'm feeling like the man lately. Can't nobody do it like I can daily. Baddest in the land. Body turn your nigga to a fan up. I made it where I'm at on my own.
Man, so good morning to you. City Socialist Lily, good morning. XLP, don't y'all come on here trying to rush me now. Six Dragon Daddy, what's going on?
If you let me put it down, when I come in town, you should lie on me. Keep your minds on me. On try, baby, I think you should side with me.
Lee, good morning.
Callie, good morning. Just promise you never lie to me. Keep the moves on time. I know it's all up. Everything good. Keep
happy birthday again to my sister Nat. Tiger, what's going on?
Know it's all love. Know it's all love.
Courtney the SLP. Melanie Dennis, good morning. Shout out to our new patrons we got. Tony and Keith Displays are more than double. Bailey P, good morning. What's to be good going to you? New Twitch subscribers, we have K-Pop Girl who subscribed. Chicken Fried Dragon gifted a 3-month subscription to Action Jackson and a 1-month subscription to Power Nap Dragon and Braden Jade. That guy named Tiny resubscribed and coming in 5 months, halfway to a Twitch baby. Thank you for always being a voice of the truth in the sea of lies known as the media. Yes, indeed. Old School Hype resubscribed and they resubscribed for 5 months. Appreciate y'all. Barbie Brown, good morning. Stoic, good morning to you. Shout out to Sandy for your super chat. Thank you for putting focus back on the anti-blackness racism in America. We don't have the time, energy, or resources to be distracted to fight those who don't fight for us. can't spread ourselves too thin. Keep it up. And Laura Strider, thank you for your super chat. Happy birthday to our beloved Nat A. Let's celebrate our sister, friend, and family. Love you, Nat. May nephew Kane snug you up. Yes, indeed. Happy birthday again, Nat A. And if you have not become a member of Patreon yet, hey, patreon.com/likeItOrNot, patreon.com/the BPD. So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, man. Drop one more. Actually, it's the last new song, and we about to get into Like It or Not. So y'all stay tuned.
You can keep your winner. I'ma make a better
Starshine Song Dragon, good morning.
Better way. Mom and Dad's only daughter.
Laverne, good morning. And a heart, good morning to you.
Writing my life in lyrics. Do you like the sound?
I guess this would be season 3 music for me.
When it's my truth I own, I speak it, don't make sense now. Give it a good, put that on good when it gets hard. Stay on my job like no days off, so you can go home with that jump on my back. 'Cause I've been working all day. Can I catch a break? Give a pretty brown girl her space. You can keep your bitter. I'ma make a better
Hustler, good morning
I've been working all day. Can I catch a break? Give a pretty brown girl her space. You can keep your bitter.
Those are songs by King Sis, y'all. Told y'all we got some new music for y'all. Only got 3 songs today, but don't worry. It's a whole new music week. But y'all know what time it is, man. Let's get into it.
I'ma make a better way.
Y'all know what time it is. Good morning, y'all. Get your coffee, your tea, drink whatever it is you need. It's time for Like It or Not, y'all. 9 a.m. to 10:30, yeah. Like It or Not is on your channel, yeah. Politics and culture, it's we change skin like we're supposed to, yeah. Interviews and all the news, we get to choose what gets the views.
Brother KFC, what's going on, Kev?
Get started now, so stick around. Like it or not, it's going down.
That A is requesting her birthday poll in the chat room.
Y'all stick around. Oh, Rebecca's on. It's coming through.
That A, this for you.
You know she got a good story for you. Oh, Benjamin, that's my dog. This is his show. He's a politics bro.
Real quick. An armed man ran into a real estate agency and shouted, "Nobody move!"
TJ exclusive. Y'all know who I am.
My mom in the chat room talking about
stay dropping them jams.
Poll in the room for him.
Like it or not, it's going down.
Luke King, I got
like
you.
It or
Shout out to Industrial Lodge. What's going on, brother?
Y'all stick around. Oh, like it or not, it's starting now. Like it or not, it's to go down.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, people. I motion to have the intro changed to Like It or Not with Rebecca Azar. God dang it.
I am a year late with that request.
A year later. I remember I've been waiting since 2017 to be included.
When, like 2014? Like when Jesus still walking?
Yeah, I mean, sandals and all, baby.
Jesus was in his Jesus Force Ones with his sandals walking when I promised to change the title. Welcome to Like It. Welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth
and not care who doesn't like it. I feel like I need a longer part there.
Oh, you can actually know. So when we do officially switch it over, because I got to take all those videos of me being skinnier. I got to take it down. That's depressing. The pandemic weight done caught back up with me, and I'm looking at those pictures when I was nice and happy and stuff. So I want to take everything down. I'm with you, James. Remove all of it.
Benjamin Dixon.
P. Dixon.
Benjamin Dixon. You better be glad I'm not cussing. I'm in my no cussing clause right now.
Yes,
but I'm looking at your face on the screen right now. It looked like you've been smoking crack. Right. You're skinny as heck. Crack, man. The face skinny and everything. I'm like, you talking about.
Not the crack.
I mean,
crack is whack.
You like you.
Crack is whack.
I literally was going to say, it looks great. Like you look great. There's,
you do, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I honestly did not mean for this to turn into make Ben feel better about his weight session, but I do want to say,
it's not us making
we
you feel
owe
better.
you.
This is the truth.
I've been promising you for a year. I've been promising you for a
nothing.
year to change that, and I have incentive. I personally have an incentive to change it now. So maybe I'll get it done this time around.
Okay, stop being weird.
You still look good. Shut the crap
I will
up.
say,
right, thanks.
But I will say,
I'll get the work done.
We can't tell anybody. I know, like, you got to believe it for yourself. I wish you would believe it.
Right.
You would see it the way that we all see it, but you have to feel comfortable in your own skin.
You know what my kids called me last night?
If your goal is to be, a couple pounds lighter, I think that you should just kind of look at it like, okay, what do I look like now? What do I love about the way I look like now? And that'll help you get to the goal that you want to be, instead of saying, I hate the way I look like now.
Oh no, I mean, I don't hate the way I look right now. I was so much happier back then. Those were the good old days. But no, for real, I'm joking. Here's a serious thing though. And it's not too serious. My kids called me last night, marshmallow covered steel. They like to just run and randomly hit me and punch me in my stomach because it's like I teach them how to fight, and they got some really good solid hits. My baby boy, they call me marshmallow covered steel, and I just been kind of I've been impacted by that.
Ben, you're listening to
what's in the news? I'm messing with you.
4, 5, 6 years old. Okay. Oh my
Not going to
gosh.
story yet.
No, marshmallow covered steel. You know what?
My 11-year-old. Yeah.
You know what I hear when I hear marshmallow covered steel? I hear somebody who, who is so hard, maybe on the inside or even on the outside, but your children know,
I ain't nothing but a teddy bear.
There's a soft area on my daddy, even though he might be hard, but he's soft for us. So you are marshmallow.
He's soft, exactly.
For your kids.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yes.
It's funny because I get really harsh when my babies are like in danger. Like the harshest I get is like when my little boy was about to touch a socket, I think I turned into Joe Jackson for about a split second. So I think that's a part of it too. Maybe dads just kind of do that kind of thing,
Yeah. Well, no, and you're a dad anyway, so your kids are going to see you differently than the world does. And that's a good thing because the way you are on Twitter is ridiculous. But here we are on Tuesday, which feels like a Monday. Yesterday was such, I ain't even gonna hold you. Yeah, I just feel like these weekends are becoming like 10 minutes long. You blink and it's like a 15-minute break at your corporate job. So you had no time to really close your eyes. You had no time to get any food to eat. You had no time to really gather yourself. You have no time to really just like say, that was a day, because the next day already came. That's what the weekends have been starting to feel like these days. But it's Tuesday, a new day. And so hopefully this day it doesn't feel so Monday-ish or a 15-second break. So, it's Tuesday. I think I'm going to do tacos just to really tacos.
Set it off
really
Tuesday, probably.
Do like a margarita situation. I might even use my sick time off of work because I feel like I need a day. No, I'm not going to do that because then when I come back, they'll probably be like, hey, your check is dubbed. And I'm like, why? Because you use your sick time. Anybody got time for that? But Tuesday, I'm going to make it good. I'm going to have margaritas and I'm going to do tacos today.
That sounds like a plan. I should pull up. I need to introduce y'all to a friend of mine. She's the first time she's come on the show. I think I reached out to her years ago to do a segment called Righteous and Ratchet. I don't even know if she remembers that, but her name is Candice Benbow. I've been following her for years on social media. She's the author of a book called Red Lip Theology. And she's just pretty dope all the way around. She reminds me of us being saved, sanctified, but don't try her, even if it's Tuesday. How you doing, sis? Welcome to the show. Oh man, you're on mute, sis.
I'm muted.
There it is. There it is.
There we go. Hey, Miss Candice.
Hey, Candice.
How are you? How are y'all?
I'm good. Good, girl.
Doing
Good. Happy
great.
to have
I'm so
somebody to
excited.
balance it out right now.
Listen, because I was listening to that back there, and I was like, my sis needs some more people on her side.
Some reinforcement, sis. Come on over.
Wait. Now, hang on. There's only really one thing that we disagree with Rebecca Zora on here vehemently, and that's the HBCU that she went to. So, now, so if you
wait a minute. Wait, hold on. Let me take what do I need to take my earrings off? Which
I mean, and you, as you may, depending on what school you went to, but I went to the
Which
number
one
one
did you-
HBCU in the nation. The number one.
you
the
went
number
to
one
Tennessee State. Oh my God.
You went to Florida A&M. Why you playing on my show? Somebody get her out of here. Get her out of here.
Oh my God.
Get her out of
okay.
here.
Not her.
Oh my goodness.
And Candice, me and DJ Exclusive James, we both went to Bethune-Cookman College at the time, university now.
Let's go.
Okay.
Hell Wildcats.
I graduated from the Tennessee State University.
Now, what's your mascot?
Everybody makes a little bit of mistakes. What
We
is
are
it?
the
What are they?
Tigers. Watch
The
your
Tigers.
mouth, James. Watch your mouth, James.
I it's I hope everybody knows HBCU rivalries are all love because we always attack our first guest. The first thing we talk about, no matter who they are, is what school did you go to?
What
But
school
second
you
thing I
went
wanna-
to? Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, sis. I tell you what, I want to know though.
It's so funny because people think like that our rivalries that like we actually are getting at each other, but the truth is, don't like wait until you try to do that PWI versus HBCU argument, and then you see how all of us come together like Voltron to like shut it down. So like it don't matter where we went. It don't matter where we went to school that day. Like try us and see what happens.
Try Jesus, not us.
At that point,
Not
all of us
us.
went to Hillman College.
Yeah, basically.
Everybody went to
It's a
Hillman.
different world over here. As soon as they
It's a
say
different world over
PWI,
here.
we'll be like, it's a different world, sweetie. It's a different world.
From where you come from. Hello?
Listen.
From where you come from.
And it don't matter if you're singing the Don Lewis version or the Aretha Franklin version. It's gonna be soulful
Exactly.
anyway.
Come on, man.
Exactly.
Come on, man. Hey, bro. We go deep in the culture here. Candice, I want to talk about you. I want to talk about your book, but I also just want to talk about like how you position yourself in religious circles and.
Sorry, it's Brad and Brad.
I didn't see it. Listen, look at the title. Red Lip Theology.
Red Lip Theology. Because
For girls
who
who've
was the lip first, and then I read the title, Red Lip Theology.
Yes.
For church girls who have considered tithing to the beauty supply store when Sunday morning ain't enough, isn't enough. Tell us about the title and the subtitle, sis.
So Red Lip Theology is it is the way that I see myself in the world as a Black millennial woman of faith. I graduated from seminary at Duke Divinity School and was dealing with this a white classmate who called himself trying to be funny and asked me, do I consider myself to be a regular theologian or a Black theologian? As if white people do regular theology and then we just out here just shooting the breeze and talking about God. And I said, I'm a red lip theologian. And when I said that, it actually made the most sense for me as how do I understand and see myself in the world as a Black millennial woman of faith, both raised by the church culture and hip hop. And what does it mean for me to bring my whole self to my faith experience and my religious lived experience? And the truth of the matter is that we all know that the church can be trifling. And so that subtitle was like, there are days when I'm like, I would just rather go to the beauty supply store and find Jesus in this new eyeshadow palette. I'd rather go to brunch and find the Holy Ghost at the bottom of some bottomless mimosas. Like there are so many other places where we get and find the spirit. And so this book is really about how do we honor the intersections of our faith experience as Black women and live into that.
I love it all because listen to me. Listen to me straight here, Miss Redlip. I honestly understand. And it's funny that you mentioned even the beginning of how you even got to where you got to, be inspired to even create the story. Your experience going to a theologian school. I hope I said that right.
I went to Duke Divinity School. Yeah.
Okay, Duke Divinity School. So even going to the college to study to become a theologian. Yeah. Right. There we go. I'm saying it correctly.
Yes, you did. You said it. Yeah.
It gives me. Recently we had this Mitch McConnell who stated that Americans, the number of Black Americans, I think it was, who vote, it was something of that conversation, was just as high as Americans, letting us know there's a separation in how America views, Black people and white people. And white people are considered Americans and Black people are not, even though it was the blood, sweat, and tears of Black folks who've created this country. And if you just want to, and I'm going to tap in right here for my indigenous folks,
you better
open the floor for you to come on up, and to join the conversation because they try to exclude the original, right? The original people who were, this is their land. But to exclude Black Americans in any conversation, I think this is where it comes in. And I think even in the Christian world, even in the Black church, and how we always have to make everything black. I like how you said, you know what? No, I'm a regular schmegler just like you. You're the one that told me to title myself a Black such and such.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, I think too often what happens, especially in faith communities, is that white people have centered themselves so much that they believe that anything that does not include them not only is left of center, that is not even on the board, right? And then you have to push them in ways to see, like, I don't even consider you when it comes to what it looks like for me to flourish as a Black woman in this world. Like and that was what was so interesting about even the book, was pushing for, I remember when my editors, they came back and they were like, hey, my publishers came back and were like, hey, like, let's think about this subtitle. I was like, well, first of all, Black women know that that's a nod to Enda Jackie Shange. So like that matters. And then they were like, okay, well, what about this tithing? Like maybe there's some people who come from religious traditions where they don't know about tithing. I said, Black women know about tithing. Next question. That's right. And then they were like, okay, well, what about beauty supply store? Maybe we should say beauty counter. I said, Black women don't go to the beauty counter.
That's giving Sally beauty supply.
Hello. We go to the beauty supply store.
Yes, ma'am.
So I was like, at every turn, this book is a book for Black women. Like if other people read it, great. And I've heard from other folks, but I wanted Black women to know that we could have a conversation about faith that centered us, that was exclusive to us, and that we didn't have to look for men to lead those conversations or to be entrenched in those conversations in a way that doesn't honor the totality of who we are. And that's how you get a book like this that says like, hey, like sis, like let us talk and see what comes of our relationship with God and the divine as a result.
I live for it because there's a lot of people, like I said, you said it. We done been in the church, been some crazy in the church. I said sometimes the church can be very culty. It can be very culty, especially in the Black church and the outside of the white church and the all of them. Okay, every single nomination, even about 90,000 of them. But I really feel like, when we come down to the core of it, especially as millennial Black women and how we are defining who we are in the church today. I mean, when we look at people like TD Jake's daughter, her ministry, Sarah Jakes, is totally different in the way that he ministers, but the message is still basically the same when we get down to it. And that's why I say, you know, for you to do that for Black women like us, you know, it's amazing to have something to read up on, something to relate to, and somebody could be like, listen, I'm saved and sanctified, and I like a drink. I ain't abusing the drink, but I like a good drink.
Exactly. And I think that's the sweet spot of where we are now, is that in ministry and in space, a Sarah Jakes, her sister Cora Jakes, like, they can exist, and so can Red Lip Theology, right? That there's room for Black women to bring the totality of who we are to our faith experience. And entirely too often, too many of us have been told that we have to comport and we have to look and be a certain way in order to be a proper Black woman or to be a proper Christian. And to be honest, that's the whiteness, right? That, like, in order to be acceptable, you have to deny parts of yourself. But what Red Lip Theology says is that God made us as we are, and that we get to bring the totality of, like, God know I can do the most, you know, sometimes I know, like, scripture, I tell people all the time, like, scripture says that God neither slumbers nor sleeps. But I know that there have been days where I have done the most and God has been like, I need a nap, because that girl down there is doing a lot.
She's a lot.
And she has worked my nerves. Right. And so, like, and then there are days where I pray, I wake up the next morning, I'm like, okay, so God, I was at like a 12 yesterday. Can you help me to stay at like a 6 so we can, like, balance this Monday and this Tuesday out? Like, I bring all of that, but I was taught that there had to be so much shame, you know, in our real lived experiences.
That's right.
That I don't, you know, Red Lip Theology says, like, no, sis, like, you bring all of you to your faith experience. And all of you is good. Like, God said, we're good creation, right? You're good. Like, it doesn't mean that in the space of a fruitful relationship with the divine, that you don't recognize the parts of you, the growing edges where you have to do work, because we all have work to do. But what it does say is that at our core, we're good and we are light. And when we lean into that, we can't help but to be more gracious, to be more light-giving, life-giving, and loving, not just to everybody else, but to ourselves.
Right. That's a good place to take it. We should, you know, not be good to just everybody else. That is you know, what being Christian is about. I don't know, you know, some evangelicals don't get that. But to also be good to ourselves, though. I think that's a very important thing to take away, too, because sometimes we'll get so caught up in how the people in the church see us, people on the outside see us, people, you know, in the workspace see us, and we start being that type of way to ourselves, and we start being that type of way to other people. And yes, be good to yourself. Don't be nasty so you can be good to everybody else. Don't be mad about your own life. Go fix you. Go get some healing about yourself.
Fix your life.
Accept you.
As what did Tamar Braxton used to always say? Get your life. Get your life. Get your life.
For a second, for a second, I thought you said Saint Tamar. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, all right. I mean, some of us, some Black women do need sainthood. Let me ask you a question. It's a rhetorical question. I don't want you to feel like you have to answer it. Why do people believe more in hell than they do forgiveness in Jesus?
Of course. Because we love the binary that there are people who are outside of God's love and that are outside of God's approval, because we need to feel like we are better than folks, right? That, like, if hell is not real, then what justification do some people have to pretend that they are good, right? Like, you know, like, there's, like, if you don't, part of it is if I believe that and I've had people say this to me all the time when they know and hear that I don't believe in hell, they say to me like, okay, but what about being good to people? I'm like, so you should actually be that because you are a fundamentally decent human being and not because you think that in the end you're going to get a reward, but because you live and you move in this world and you should want it to be a better place, right? But the idea that there is a hell suggests that there are some actions that aren't unforgivable, that there are some people that God is just like, ugh. And then there's some that God is like, okay, like I love you. And we get to dictate and say who those people are. And that is that makes God trifling to me. That makes God, that makes God too mannish to me, because when you look at the totality of Scripture, there is an arc of Scripture. The entire arc and narrative of Scripture is about God's overwhelming love and all of the ways that God has moved in this world to make that love known and to make that love felt. And there's an entire breadth of scholarship within theological education and within theological discourse that says, that hell as we know it and hell as we see it and have come to it in Western Christianity actually negates that love and actually contradicts that space. And I'm one of those scholars and I'm one of those theologians that leans into that, what does it look like for us to live in hell, i.e. structural inequality, racism, sexism, ageism, gender, homophobia, trans antagonisms, and then be banished to hell because we didn't do certain things right. Like that just don't make sense to me. We can't do that. All right. Go ahead.
And if I could be so rude as to interject, they sending people like Marjorie Taylor Greene to heaven. They sending people like Mitch McConnell to heaven. They sending people like Matt Gaetz. They sending all these people
when people dictate it, that's, we don't really know. And this is the thing. There's some simple things that we can go by. If going by being good to people is so hard for certain people because of the color of your skin or because of whatever, that's not the God that I serve. If you want to put that into making me be a part of the Black church, I'd rather be a part of just the Black church than at that point, because I don't want to be a part of anything that tells me because of the color of my skin, I must sing the songs in a flat note. I just can't do that.
Oh, you said sing a song. You shouldn't have said sing a song, Rebecca. You shouldn't have said sing a song. You shouldn't have said that, because I got a clip. Candice, I got a clip I want everybody on the screen to react to. It is a clip of South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn, as he is making the case that the thing we need to do in this moment as police officers are killing us around the world, around this country, what we really need is not the end of qualified immunity, but we need to lift every voice and sing an American national hymn. Dwayne, if you got that clip, let's run that real quick.
What Benjamin Franklin is reported to have said when he was asked what he and the founding fathers had wrought. He's reported to have replied, "A republic, if you can keep it." Later on, Franklin joined with John Adams and Thomas Jefferson to propose that the Latin phrase "e pluribus unum," out of many one, be placed on our currency as the nation's motto. Our nation continues to struggle with the issues of race and equity. The threads of our fragile democracy are fraying. It is our responsibility to demonstrate, not only with our words, but by our actions, that we can and will keep this republic intact and its people unified. That is why I introduced H.R. 301 to designate the iconic hymn, "Lift Every Voice and Sing," the national hymn for the United States of America. Enshrining "Lift Every Voice and Sing" as our national hymn will be one such substantive step forward. "Lift Every Voice and Sing" was written by James Rowland Johnson as a poem and set to music by his brother, John Rosamond Johnson. In 1919, the NAACP designated Lift Every Voice and Sing as its official song, and it was dubbed the Black National Anthem. I and scores of people with whom I have interacted have never been comfortable with that designation. We believe that out of many backgrounds and experiences, there should be but one national anthem. And we believe Lift Every Voice and Sing is a hymn that is so cherished by so many people of all faiths, creeds, backgrounds, and experiences that designating it as our national hymn would be very fitting and proper.
But creed and backgrounds, those are like the whistleblowing terms for color. That's what they'll say. They'll say, your background, your walk of life, where you come from.
Mighty bipartisan.
They don't want to say black and white.
Real
Meanwhile,
bipartisan.
they separating everything else. They calling everything American and black. Okay?
Diversity and inclusion.
So,
I'm just trying to find the black people that where are these black people that he said
scores
comfortable.
He lied
with
scores.
I have never met a black person that was like, you know what, we should not call this the Black National Anthem because there should never be one. Like,
did your HBCU sing it? Like this was mandatory for us to sing. We didn't never.
Mandatory.
We never stated the what was the original song. We ain't never really sing that. It was this song.
We sang our school hymn.
Yep.
And we sang the Black National Anthem.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's
it. And he says scores. He says scores like 20 people. Is that what you talked to?
And here's the thing. I got my roots start in South Carolina. I ain't met a cousin that has had this conversation. And I think what's unfortunate is for all of the respect that we do have for Representative Clyburn and the ways that we do a work that stands on his shoulders, we respectfully also have to say, like, it's time to get out the way. And it's time to honor that there's a new conversation that's happening and you don't get to shift that conversation because you don't like the way that it's going. Like it was like when, what was it, the last Super Bowl? It was last year when they made Juneteenth a federal holiday, and we was like, we just wanted another stimulus check and for y'all to stop killing us. Like, we did not ask for y'all to make this because the truth of the matter is, we was gonna miss that day of work anyway if it fell on a Friday or a Monday. And we was gonna go out of town and we was gonna have a cookout, and that cookout still we was always missing Juneteenth, whether it fell on we was always taking that day off. You didn't have to give it to white people. We was taking that day for ourselves anyway. So
white people must not. Go ahead.
Listen, that's the part that's just like, what? Like, y'all could have gave us another stimulus. Like, it is unfortunate that we are in a moment. You know, my 86-year-old grandma, she'll be 87 in a week, said, she was like, it's time for us to just get out the way. She said, it's been time for us to get out the way and sit and rest on the work that we've done and recognize that every generation pushes the work in a way that often makes the previous generation uncomfortable, but it has to get pushed in that way. And I think that Representative Clyburn represents that in so many ways of just like, it's time to move.
Give up the seat. Like, let somebody else take that seat. But for me, it's all of that, because I've been saying that forever. It's kind of like when the deacons in the church have been the deacons for like a million years, and they don't want to give up the give it up.
Yes. Deacon Clyburn,
you're literally crippled. Give it up. You can't see.
Uncle Ruckus.
Give it up. Give it up. But no, it's like, honestly, it's more so I feel like, why is it that Black people must always be the ones to try to be the most inclusive when it comes to, when it comes to bringing people together and making it one and taking things that we had to build ourselves, not because we wanted to be separate, because they didn't want to include us, but taking those things that we had to build ourselves, not just make it Black, but make it just ours, and give it to just people who don't want nothing to do with it, who have been who have been drawing the line in the sand for us from the beginning of time. And so I don't understand why Clyburn here, Representative Clyburn, is choosing to make this a kumbaya thing, and it's really not. This is something that is sacred to us.
That's right. Y'all know what this is.
Everybody, that's like giving the recipe to grandmama's cooking,
and you know she don't. Let me tell you.
So they can sprinkle the nuts and the berries on stuff that got no business.
Some things you keep to yourself.
Okay.
Some things you keep to yourself.
Y'all know all this is a reason for him is Black History Month. So this is his Black History Month thing to do.
Yeah.
It's trying to make
would be very Black history
this
of
the
him.
national hymn.
Yeah, it would be very, very Black history of him for him to say, hey, in a lot of these underserved communities that are predominantly Black, they don't have any clean water. They don't have, the means to get the right health care. Why aren't you fighting for that? Why aren't we hearing more about those conversations? Why aren't we holding more people, more of your counterparts accountable when it comes to police officers shooting down Black people every day like it's target practice? What are we putting in place for that? You talking about a national?
It would be very Black history for him to say we need voting rights as an executive order.
Come on.
Hello.
Like,
that's what I'm talking about.
It would be I'm tired of. I mean, for all of the ways that folks talk trash about Trump, like I'm tired of us acting like a president don't have executive orders. And I mean that Trump doing them jokers out like chewing gum,
right?
And now we have him that we're supposed to go into midterms as well as his next campaign cycle, just resting off the laurels that y'all want to make. Y'all want to give us a black woman on the Supreme Court.
Come on.
And y'all want to give us the Negro National Anthem as a hymn. That don't do it for me. You know what I'm saying? No. And I think we're in a moment where this is part of what is Red Lip Theology is about, is that you've raised a generation of critical thinkers and a generation that is unapologetic and unafraid to speak its mind. That's saying to you that what you've done in church, what you've done in politics, okay, we know that we don't negate it, because it has gotten us here, but we are honest in saying that it will not take us any further. And that is the conversation that so many of us who are millennials, so many Gen Zers are having, is that you've taken us here. You've gotten us to this point. You have pushed us to go to school. You pushed us to be critical thinkers. You've pushed us to get lived experiences. How we see the world, how we see what our community needs is different from how you see it. And it's supposed to be, because we're not the same generation. And we are able to say, these are the things that we are going to need going forward, right? Like a defund the police conversation is different than what it was, what you might think it needs to be. But we are talking about the way that resources are literally being used to police, to surveil, and to harm our communities. And we want something different, right? Like we don't, I could care less if white people get off work for Juneteenth. I could care less if they ever learn the words to the Negro National Anthem, because the truth of the matter is that when I go into church, when I go into my communities and I hear that song and we sing it, I know it means something different for us. True to our God, true to our native land. That's always means something to us. White people don't know nothing about that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want them to.
But that's it.
My God.
That's it. That is the only thing, Candice, and that's what it is. No matter what they take and try to, and it sucks because we have people who have constantly taken like our stuff and be like, let's just share it with them, because isn't that the point for us to become one, for us to be bipartisan, for us to blend and make sure that we are just people and not looking at each other because of the color of our skin.
Right.
You know, when we cut each other, we bleed the same blood. We can't be the only one. We're not the ones that cause that issue. We're not the ones that cause that division.
Exactly.
So we shouldn't be the ones fighting and giving up mama's recipes and holding hands with people while constantly they're choosing, like even in this particular month, you know, at first, T-Pain had this to say. He was like, you know, the fact that we go so hard in this month, which, you know, I am extra black, even though I'm extra black on other days, you know, of the month, of other months. But I understand what he means when he said, it just used to bother me when people used to say, why do we just celebrate and allow them to just give us this? And we just go so hard for this month. And then when they're done with us, we're pretty much done with having the conversation and we move on as well. It should be an everyday celebration, just like they have their everyday celebrations of every day of the week. But I honestly feel like I do not want, and not that I don't want to be inclusive, I don't want, any of these things to happen, but because every time these conversations do come to play, every time something is about being black or black history, it's minimal. It's, it's limited. And once all this hype is over, the white person that was holding the door open for me for Black History Month isn't going to do it in March anymore. It's a simple things like that. They're the one that wasn't going to say, hey, I got black friends and, it's pretty cool. I love to see them. Where are you from? Haiti? That's so great. All that's going to be done. They're going to be done with it. They don't really care. It's not something that is an actual point on their agenda. It's at the bottom. It's at the bottom. We've always been at the bottom when it comes to that. And that's why people are always feeling uncomfortable when I walk into the Target and I see that area where they're selling black clothing that is just very full. And I'm over here buying them up to give to other people, to make sure that I'm wearing them. And I'm staying there and they're walking by it pissed that it's there. And it's such a small section. When I say it's tiny, the homeless looking clothes or the clothes from the 1920s for the white folks is in the corner. The little what do they call those clothes with the long covered up with the floral on the chest? It's in the corner.
Right. I know exactly.
It's still available.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Foolish. Listen, we've been talking. We've been talking with Candice Benbow, the author of the book Red Lip Theology. Candice, we're at the end of the show here. I gotta have you back.
When y'all bringing me back?
Whenever we can get you back. Let's talk.
So we can bring you out whenever we feel like it. We'll just tap in with the producer and we'll definitely get you back.
Candice, as you can tell, I have no control over this. I'm just a facilitator. Tell everybody how they can get up with you and get the book.
Thank you. Yeah, so the book Red Lip Theology is wherever books are sold. You can get it there. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Candice Benbow, CandiceBenbow. And my website is CandiceBenbow.com.
It's a vibe, sis. That's all I got to say. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Candice.
Y'all have a good one.
Thank you, Candice.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
Take care now.
Too.
Bye.
Over to the after party, everybody.
Beef with all the girls, bullshit dripping off the chin.
All right, y'all. After party is up next. Y'all make sure y'all take y'all ASS's on to the after party, y'all. If you are not a member, patreon.com/liking it, patreon.com/the BPD show. Yes, there is a patron party this Friday. And in celebration of Black History Month, it is Everything Black edition of the Patreon party. All black, everything. So all the music, everything you hear is gonna be extra black if it already wasn't black enough. Friday, make sure you have your ass there, y'all. You don't want to miss it. It's gonna be the movie. Rebecca will be in the building. She just in the building. So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. Right, man, you heard me. Your affirmations for today. If you are not coming to the after party, despite how I feel, I understand this feeling and situation are temporary. Despite how I feel, I understand this feeling and situation are temporary. Y'all gonna be great, man. Love y'all, mean it. If y'all ain't at the after party, then I don't know what the hell else you got to be at. But if you are, see you in the future.